Hello, guys. Welcome in to Rover Sports, the show. I wanted to talk about a topic that I've been meaning to talk about now for about 5 to 7 hours. I just saw the news. It's funny because, most of the stuff that I'm covering right now, that I really am interested in as a sports fan, somewhat Bucks and Raptors. The NBA draft lottery was absolutely awesome to see where Zion Williamson's going, to see where John Morant's going to go. That whole part was really, really enjoyable, to watch and find out. But I haven't been in football mode, and really football mode is going to start up again in late July. I think that's when football mode really gets cracking. Is late July, training camp, fantasy football predictions, and all types of predictions. But this was a monumental news story for a team that I do like to cover and talk about, and that's the New York Jets. And they let go of Mike mcagnan. They fire mcagnan, and they trade Darren Lee for a 6th-round pick. Now, the thing about trading Lee is that maybe they want to... A couple of theories why they might have traded Lee. A couple of theories. So maybe the New York Jets traded Darren Lee so that Blake Cashman can actually, maybe one of the rookies really impressed them during the rookie minicamp, and that in itself should be good news for Jets fans. Or Darren Lee's personality. They just didn't want to play Darren Lee. He just didn't fit at all, so they're just get rid of him. So that's not really a big deal. What is a big deal is the dysfunction of the New York Jets, and something that I have highlighted for a very long time. I said that by hiring Adam Gase, really a failed coach in Miami, a guy who's done absolutely nothing with his coaching tenure, he actually has done more than nothing. He's been a huge negative as a head coach. He was a negative for the Miami Dolphins. They couldn't get rid of that dude fast enough. You are picking up on a retread crappy hire. When I listen to Chris Sims and these guys at NBC Sports, they say, you know what, I'm tired of these retread GMs like Charlie Casserly suggested, Mike mcagnan, but instead he's not tired of retread NFL coaches, and that's exactly what Adam Gase is to me. He's a retread NFL coaching hire. So, really, Adam Gase didn't do anything with the dysfunction in Miami. People are going to say Adam Gase in Miami had to deal with Mike Tannenbaum and Stephen Ross, and those guys are bad owners and bad GMs. Well, really, is Christopher Johnson a great owner? And now the GM is completely out of place. So there was a lot of dysfunction in Miami, and people make excuses for Adam Gase dealing with dysfunction in Miami, and now he's dealing with dysfunction here. It's not like Adam Gase is going to a stable owner. It's not like he's going to Pittsburgh, Denver. It's not like he's going to a powerhouse sort of franchise, like a Patriots or somebody that's an absolute power. Even Green Bay has had some stability in terms of their performance. So he's going to the New York Jets, which hasn't been stable. Rex Ryan had 2 good years. Other than that, they haven't won playoff games. They fired Herm Edwards. They had Mangini. They're a carousel. Todd Bowles was hired, I think, after Rex Ryan. So I knew that there was a lot of dysfunction with the New York Jets and Christopher Johnson. So this is the theory. While I thought about it, I was going to eviscerate the New York Jets for firing mcagnan. The problem is with mcagnan is that he paid money for Le'Veon Bell, and I actually thought the $13 million for Bell. I was shocked that the Jets got that. I thought Bell was going to get $16 million. Then you hear that mcagnan was bidding against himself. And I guess that can be a problem, right? Bidding against yourself for Bell. But still, you bring in Bell. The Anthony Barr thing was embarrassing, because now if you had Anthony Barr with his speed off the edge, you really would have had a really awesome pass rush. If you had Barr, Mosley, and Quinnen Williams, you would have had a really good team with Leonard Williams in the middle of the field as well. So That really sucked to not get Anthony Barr, because Barr could have been utilized by Greg Williams in ways that he wasn't even able to be utilized in Minnesota's defense. But you look at mcagnan, the reason why I think mcagnan stayed is because the draft process is so far deep down the line, that you're just going to let the GM finish the draft. Now, the GM, they could have fired. What they really should have done in hindsight, though, is they should have fired mcagnan immediately, and you need to hire a GM first, and then the GM will hire the head coach, and you have a partnership. I mean, look at all the great GM and coaching partnerships. We have Chris Ballard, who's a rock star general manager. We have Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, rock star general manager and head coach tandem. You now look at Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury. They're getting along great. They just crushed the draft together. John Lynch and then Kyle Shanahan. So Lynch was hired and then Shanahan. You look at Gruden and Mayock, really good buddies. So the key for the next coaching hire is for somebody to get along with Adam Gase. Now, the problem is with Adam Gase is he's not that great of a communicator. He needs to communicate what he wants. And a lot of times with Adam Gase, I think a problem he had in Miami is that he loves X's and O's. He loves coaching football. But the problem is sometimes he complains when he doesn't get his style of player. So Adam Gase is just way too loose on the personnel side. He needs to get better about caring about the personnel side. I don't think he cares enough about the personnel side. He needs to start caring more if he wants his football team to really be an identity of Adam Gase. But the real problem is, what happens if Adam Gase did not want Le'Veon Bell? And that's reports that are coming out now. What happens if the philosophy of Mike mcagnan did not match up with Greg Williams and Adam Gase? You essentially wasted an entire draft. The ego of Greg Williams, the ego of Adam Gase, because Adam Gase certainly has an ego. He shipped off Jay Ajayi. Jarvis Landry did not get along with Adam Gase. A lot of players in Miami did not get along with him. He kind of kept to himself. He didn't socialize that well, and that's important. Socializing, and it's not just talking. It's being able to communicate with your players. It's being able to lead players so that the players buy in. That's where NFL teams are made. That's where good teams are made, is really having players that listen to the coaches and having coaches that really gain the attention of the players. So the New York Jets, by hiring Adam Gase, was a disaster. The GM is now out. You have Greg Williams, who's a huge ego as a defensive coordinator. There's a reason why a lot of franchises would not even think about hiring Mr. Bountygate Greg Williams. You now have Le'Veon Bell coming in here, Jamal Adams in the New Jerseys. It's too much media. It's too much circus. You're adding too much of a circus to the New York Jets right now. And now you end up firing Mike mcagnan. Now, I'm not going to freak out about firing mcagnan, right? Because he passed on Alvin Kamara, his drafting, Christian Hackenberg, Devin Smith. Maybe some of the reason why I liked a lot of these guys from a personality standpoint. I liked Darren Lee. I like these guys, but they can never be utilized correctly by the coaching staff. The offensive coaches were a complete joke. With Jeremy Bates, with, I don't know if Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator before Jeremy Bates. The New York Jets, though, they were a disaster with Devin Smith and Darius Stewart and all these other guys, and Chad Hansen. Chad Hansen had a great career at Cal. And this did seem like a little bit of a Mike mcagnan draft in the later rounds. You get Blake Cashman. Blake Cashman seems similar to Hansen in terms of being really good character kids. A lot of production, but not that athletic. Trayvon Wesco seems like a mcagnan pick for sure. So it's a weird jumbling of kind of, personalities. I think that the Polite pick was more of a Greg Williams pick, because I think Greg Williams really liked Polite a lot. He likes explosiveness. He likes those high upside kids. That's what Greg Williams likes on tape. So it's just really the New York Jets, and this all starts with Christopher Johnson. The whole process of the New York Jets is just completely messed up, and it starts at the top with Christopher Johnson because he is so indecisive. There is no clear-cut direction for what this team wants to do. He's way too concerned about what the fans think of him, and he does not make the proper decision. The right decision would have been Josh Allen over Sam Darnold. Instead, mcagnan and Christopher Johnson, they're not ballsy enough to make the correct choice, and they did not select Josh Allen. That would come back to hurt them because of peer pressure in the New York market. If Josh Allen was selected by the New York Jets, it would have been like Daniel Jones, passing on Sam Darnold. Oh, you could have got Josh Allen later. The freak out would have been ridiculous. But you have to be ballsy enough to make decisions to pick good players that the fans are not going to like. And I don't think mcagnan did that. Kristaps Porzingis was the one great move that Phil Jackson made as a New York Knicks talent evaluator. And the city hated it, and really it was the right decision. And trading Odell Beckham by the Giants was a ballsy move, and New York hated it. Drafting Jones, I think that's going to prove to be a pretty decent move, but now I'm talking about the Giants too much. Really, this New York Jets team is dysfunctional, and it starts with the ownership of Christopher Johnson. He has no idea what he really wants in a coach. There's no marriages between the front office and the head coaches. And if those two things are not going together, this thing's going to be a disaster. I don't believe in Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell's too much about himself. You have Sam Darnold he's not even like a Baker Mayfield type of leader. Baker Mayfield will call out his teammates if they don't do well. Sam Darnold's too subservient. Jamal Adams is the real leader of that team, and he's great on defense, but you need an offensive leader. The New York Giants have Eli. They have Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. You look at the Colts have Andrew Luck. Quarterbacks need to be great leaders. And Sam Darnold needs to start taking over this team as a leader. That's something that he has to do. But the fact that they didn't fire mcagnan, the fact that they tried to marry Gase and mcagnan together, I knew that mcagnan wouldn't get along with Greg Williams. I knew their personalities were different. And Christopher Johnson never took that into account. And he really, I think, made a mistake for this year in keeping him around. Now, with that being said, that Christopher Johnson made a mistake and it's so dysfunctional in Jetland. I don't believe in Gase. I don't believe in Darnold. I don't really believe that Greg Williams here. I think that it has great potential to blow up on the New York Jets, and it starts with the ownership. It starts with the top. It starts with Christopher Johnson. However, maybe the Jets can go out and hire a really good GM. I'll tell you a GM that I would hire number one, and here I'm actually giving Jet fans what I would do. So I'm giving you advice that the Rover would do. I would, and it's very tough because Adam Gase is now the head coach, and that never would have been my head coach. I would have had Matt Rule. I would have looked at Kingsbury. I would have looked at other guys. But Eric Dobbs from the Indianapolis Colts is a star in the making. He's with Chris Ballard. You look at the Colts. They have great off seasons, very quiet off seasons. Look at the Chargers, quiet. The Steelers had a quiet offseason. When you have a quiet offseason, like the Cowboys even, that's a good thing. When you have quiet, you don't have drama, you don't have players missing OTAs, you don't have people getting traded, you don't have a lot of roster turnover. That's good to have a quiet offseason. And Chris Ballard is so professional. He doesn't bring in guys with character issues. He brings in guys that are great character guys that also have athletic upside, and he marries the player skills with the coaches. That's also what Mayock does brilliantly. Mike Mayock in Oakland asks Paul Gunfer, what players do you want? Let's get these players together. It's a collaborative effort, and that's what Gase and these guys have to do. Can Adam Gase collaborate? Can he take the time with Greg Williams to collaborate with the next general manager? So Eric Dobbs of the Colts is a really good general manager. I don't think Douglas is a terrible option. They're looking at him, but I don't really know him. Contrary to what a lot of Jet fans might want, I think Daniel Jeremiah would actually be a really good choice. I look at DJ. He's a great, great guy. That's something that's very important. DJ has also worked with the Baltimore Ravens. He's worked with Philadelphia. So DJ really knows football. And Jeremiah would be a guy that I think is very, very impressive. And another thing about Daniel Jeremiah, here's another thing about Daniel Jeremiah. He worked with the Ravens and the Eagles, so he's been in the NFL. He has a very good relationship with other people. You saw how successful Mayock did in his first draft. Jeremiah would be a good hire. Who else is Brett Coleman has been brilliant. He's one of my favorite guys to follow on YouTube, but Brett Coleman knows more football than half the GMs in the NFL. I mean, just listen to one Coleman video. He would be sensational, but who knows where the New York Jets are going to go from here. And at least they got rid of Mike mcagnan. If he really sucked, at least they got rid of it, right? mcagnan wasn't that good. He drafted Hackenberg. He deserved to be let go with Todd Bowles. The fact that they kept him, the fact that they lied to you and said that these guys were going to work together, the fact that it's just a waste of time, huge waste of time for the New York Jets. And that is another reason why I don't think the Jets are going to be very good next year. I see 5-11 again. I see Gase getting fired maybe. I see disaster, 4, 5, 6 wins. Because this franchise is just not together enough, okay? I don't see the whole thing coming together. I definitely don't see long-term success because this franchise, kind of like the Cleveland Browns, is just too crazy. There's too many egos. There's too many people involved now. There's egos on offense. There's some egos on defense. We'll see how Polite works out. I think Quentin Williams will be good, but Jamal Adams is a big-time leader, and he'll let people know when things aren't going well. And then you have Sam Darnold. Can Sam Darnold take this leadership thing properly? You also have the expectation of Sam Darnold. You know, the Jet fans thinking it's going to be an 11-win year, a possible AFC championship, AFC East championship, a possible wild card. And now you have Le'Veon Bell, you have C.J. Mosley, you have all this talent, and you have all this expectation, and you have expectation without actually the substance. And that could lead to disaster. So a lot of that is why I think it's going to be a disastrous year. But that's me breaking down the mcagnan thing. They got him fired, but again, Chris Johnson did a terrible job. They're now stuck. They fired him way too late in the process. Chris Johnson cares way too much what the public thinks. He doesn't make good decisions. And it was just a complete disaster. And I told you that mcagnan and Greg Williams would be a disaster. I told you that Gase, mcagnan, and Williams would not work. And sure enough, it didn't work. So, again, Christopher Johnson not putting the puzzle together. And that's what ended up happening. But this isn't the end game. I'm not saying right now that Gase and the Jets suck. You know, just like Steve Keim, right? When Steve Keim traded Josh Rosen, people are like, Keim needs to be fired. Keim's an idiot. Keim sucks. Keim's the worst general manager ever. Keim is an embarrassment to football. The Cardinals should fire him. No. I'm not saying any of this stuff really about the Jets. The Jets haven't played a damn game yet, and let's see who the hire at the GM spot is going to be. Let's see how Gase does. I'm not confident in Gase, but Gase is going to have 2 years to figure it out. Gase and Williams together, this tandem, let's see how it does. Let's see if I am proved wrong or not. So we shall see what's going to happen with the New York Jets with this treacherous schedule. It is going to be really, really fun. I think it's going to be I think it could be Jeremiah or Joe Douglas. I think Jeremiah would be a home run hire. I think that would be awesome. You got to get somebody that Gase can work with, somebody that Gase respects, somebody that gets along with Adam Gase. That's the most important thing. Get somebody that gets along with Gase, because if you get an enemy of Adam Gase, it's a problem. Look at Reggie McKenzie and John Gruden. They didn't get along, and Reggie McKenzie, that was a disaster. You got to get somebody. Even if Adam Gase runs this thing, it's not exactly the end of the world. You got to get somebody that Gase likes. Even if Gase calls the shots and the guy does the research for him, that still is good, because you can't have a GM pick players that the coaches hate. You can't. So the coach is more important in this thing. Alrighty, guys, thanks.